Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing out there tonight? Wonderful. Wonderful. We're in for a really great treat. As you see over here, there's a bunch of students from Kelly Walsh High School that are about to perform for us. So it's going to be a really wonderful time. My name is Mike Lang. I'm the Executive Director of the Wyoming Arts Council, and thank you. We're really excited to have everyone with us tonight. So it is my great joy to introduce our special performance for the evening, the Kelly Walsh High School Advanced Percussion Ensemble under the direction of Brent Rose. Kelly Walsh High School has a large and active music department. With over 400 students and 3 orchestras, 6 choirs, and 6 bands, the music students have a tremendous opportunity for musical growth. The music ensembles at Kelly Walsh High School perform over 50 times a year around the community, in addition to a rigorous concert series in their 600-seat auditorium. Kelly Walsh ensembles have toured domestically and internationally with concerts in Texas, California, Washington, Hawaii, Ireland, Italy, Austria, and Scotland. More than any of this, the focus on the program remains on making music and memories, cultivating the energy and relationships brought to life while making music together. You know, if we want to have a really great conversation in this state about how we help build a workforce and diversify our economy, it's the programs like the arts and like the humanities that really help build connections between students. So please help me in welcoming the Kelly Walsh High School Advanced Percussion Ensemble under the direction of Brent Rose.
It is customary the job of a band director to stall while their instrumentalists switch gears, so they're going to be switching gears, and I'll tell some stories. First of all, I want to say thanks. We're so blessed to be here and share our music with you. I want to say thanks to Michael Lang with the Arts Council for asking us here, and the governor's office for making it possible. It gives me such joy to look around the room and see. I've got former students that are in the room, colleagues I've been working with for a very long time, and I'm so proud of the arts culture that we have going on in Wyoming. I think, as Michael was saying, I think an arts education is so valuable and so important to these kids. Now, I get a lot of joy out of just seeing the kids grow musically, but I think it's just so, I don't think it could be stated enough how important the lessons they learn in the fringe are in an arts education. The life lessons that are going to be taken to the workforce. They're going to be with these kids for a long time. The people in this room know that already. And with Governor Gordon supporting the arts in the way that he does in this state, you know, the arts community in Wyoming, I think, is very unique. The people that are from Wyoming know that I was born and raised in Lusk. My parents both taught music for 30 plus years in Lusk. My brother's been teaching for 20 years. He's teaching music in Worland, and I've been teaching 18 years now. The Wyoming, oh, yeah, please, absolutely. That feels good. But as unique as the arts community is in Wyoming, I wouldn't trade it for anywhere. But anyway, I was saying Governor Gordon's support of the arts, I felt not, I do feel it now as he is the governor, but I felt it when he was a parent of two students I had in the classroom when I taught in Buffalo. His two daughters, Ann and Bea, were in our choir. When I directed theater, they were in the plays. And so for 18 years, I felt his ingenious support of the arts, and I feel it to this day, so we're super blessed for that. So if we can give them a round of applause for their support. Mark and Jeannie's youngest daughter, Ann, works on Broadway, if you didn't know, and I haven't discussed this with Ann, but I cast her as Mrs. Hathaway in our musical production of Annie, and so I feel like I am in part responsible for her spot in New York. A little bit about the music. We're only doing 2 songs, so you got one. It's great dinner music, I think, in my book. This next tune and the first tune are both part of a series that we did that are all weather-related percussion tunes. And so this first one was called Storm Break. It kind of feels that. With some other songs that we've done on this concert with weather-related music were Rain and Shine. This last one's called Hurricane Camille. It was written by the great jazz banjo player Bela Fleck, and it's about one of the terrible hurricanes that's ever hit our coasts. But I do want to say that we performed these at the Music Educators Banquet earlier this year, and we discussed at that banquet that we'd like to maybe at some point have commissioned a piece of work for percussion weather-related Wyoming music. Now, we said at the time we'd call it Wyoming Where the Wind Never Stops Blowing. Since that time, I've decided personally it's going to be a 4-movement piece. The first movement will be that. The second movement, in honor of the students, it would be their favorite. It's called Snow Day. I think that would be the second movement. I've decided very recently the third movement, simply called, and you'd only get it if you're from this area, I-80 is closed. That would be movement 3. And then we're looking for ideas for the 4th movement, so if you have ideas, come let us know. Once again, thanks so much for having us. This is Hurricane Camille. Thanks for letting us play for you tonight.
Wow, very good. Thanks, Brent. The Kelly Walsh Advanced Percussion Ensemble. Thank you. Definitely as a proud alum from Kelly Walsh, thank you guys for representing. Very much appreciate it. So how about that meal? Did you guys enjoy it? Thank you again to Little America for not only the meal, but all the service that they've been providing. I really appreciate that. One more hand for the staff. And I did forget one plug. It's somewhat shameless. My friend Gene, we're hosting a book signing for his new book on Saturday at the Wyoming State Museum from 10 to 11:30. So if you're still in town, I'd like to swing by and see Gene one more time. He'd love to sign and sell you a book, I'm sure. So I did get a text from one of my directors that she wanted to make sure she made it here, but I'd be remiss if I didn't point out or at least recognize any of my fellow directors, agency heads that are out there that are also enduring the legislative session. If they're here, I'd like to have them stand and be recognized. I know Diane's here. She's the one who texted me. Diane Schober with the Tourism Office. There she is in the back. Hi, Diane. Thank you for being here. I was also informed that we are starting to stream the live PBS streaming, and I want to thank my friend Joanna Kale for helping put that thing together as well. And as I was sitting there thinking about, all right, we're streaming this live, I go back to that movie Grease, and all I can think of is somebody blue mooning us. And so, Millward, please don't do it. I know you were thinking it, don't do it. So, no, I really appreciate PBS for live streaming this for us. It's something very, very impressive and important for the arts to be streamed and put out there for everybody else to see. So, without any further ado, I know several people that have come up have talked about how important and impressive it is to have the governor of the state of Wyoming and a first lady so supportive of not only the arts but the entire cultural ensemble that we have in the state of Wyoming, and very fortunate to have them with us in our state. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the governor of the great state of Wyoming, Mark Gordon.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Let it never be said that what you learn in school doesn't follow you. So my daughter's second grade teacher was here tonight and had this wonderful book. My daughter's band and drama coaches were here. Brent, Kelly Walsh, let's give it up for Kelly Walsh one more time. Just amazing. You know, Brent and his brother Chad were such dedicated teachers in Buffalo, and we'll forgive them for going to Worland and for going to Kelly Walsh. But that's exactly the kind of passion that you saw in our teachers in that education. And it's the kind of thing that gave our daughters and our son, who's right here, Spencer, who also is an amazing artist, makes wonderful furniture. You know, there was a passion and a real growth of, you know, what is it that we want to do with our lives? And it's so exciting to be able to express yourself artistically. But before I get ahead of myself, Gene, I was thinking about a poem that I could read here tonight in honor of you. My wife told me that somehow the Odyssey would be a long poem. So I was thinking of Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who said, you know, love is like a cigarette. The bigger the drag, the more you get. But then I happened on this by chance, and it seems appropriate for this evening, and it comes from this book. Music. Music is the universal glue of mankind, a gift that crosses the lines of race, color, and creed, celebrates history, heroes, hunger, and pain, circles the kaleidoscope of emotions, the tenderness of love, the wrenching heartbreak of sorrow, and the melancholy mist of uncertainty. Light-hearted humor, the triumphant joy of victory. Young or old, music lifts our spirits, calms our anxiety, renews our hope, promises, revitalizes, energizes. Immersed in musical notes, memories swirl from the depth of our being, recycling a festival of feelings. Song is the voice of the soul taking flight, and dance its rhythm. Music is a gift to be shared, enjoyed, and celebrated. Music knows the heart of the world and brings us together as one. That was right there. That was right there. And as I look at this room, you know, not only do I see a lot of really good-looking people, really, you look marvelous. But there's also a passion and a hunger here that just makes Wyoming what it is. And it's so wonderful to have this opportunity to share this evening. Both Jenny and I are delighted to be here this evening to have this moment to sort of celebrate what's going on in the state of Wyoming in the arts. And I got to tell you, it is incredibly strong what is going on. You'll see tonight. You'll see it in our school kids, you'll see it in the people that care, you'll see it in the people that will be up here tonight, recognized not only for their work as artists, but also for their work as making sure they grow new artists. And if you think about the history of this state, you think about the wonderful kind of feeling that you get when you see the stars by Chugwater. One of my very favorite places in this state is when you drive from here to Torrington. There's a calm. There's a beautiful calm that's there, and you can think about this place and all that God meant it to be for us. And then you see in the passageway that's in the Capitol that we call prosaically the connector. But you see in the connector the artwork, and I encourage you to take the time to go look at the artwork in the Governor's Arts Awards. Not Governor's Arts Awards, Governor's Arts, what is it, Darren? Arts exhibit? Capital Art Exhibit. All right, good. There. That's what it is. But it's phenomenal. And Jenny and I have had the opportunity to sort of walk through that, and you know, this is what we do in our society. We say, okay, we need you to pick 3 or 4 of your favorites. I dare you to try to pick 3 or 4 favorites in that exhibit. They're every single one of them. In fact, one of the artists is here. Sue Summers has got work right there. Now, Sue lives in one of the most amazing metropolises of Pinedale. You know, it's almost as big as Casey, well, maybe a little bigger than Casey. But, you know, and every one of you know, and that's what's sort of fun tonight. And tonight we're going to celebrate a lot of things that have happened in places like Laramie and Sheridan and elsewhere. But every one of you knows an artist, a person that made a difference in a child's life. And if you ever doubt how important the arts are, if you ever doubt how meaningful the arts are for our future, think about some of the things that have been developed by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Now, I say this because, again, it's a little bit prosaic. But The Massachusetts Institute of Technology brings their engineers together with artists to talk about the things that they can design for the future. And they have made remarkable things. And it was fun to see it embedded in the MIT sort of program as this lab that does these incredible things. But a lot of it starts in places like Ucross, Wyoming, where every evening, artists, visual artists, writers, musicians come together and share their work over a table. And when I had the opportunity to be there and run the ranch on the place, we also had oil and gas folks that would come in, and folks that were from, you know, the cow pastures and the calving barns, sitting down with oil and gas guys and artists from New York City. And these are people that don't normally talk to each other, you know? They don't normally talk together to each other, and then they go, well, you know, what is it you're doing on that rig? And they would get fascinated, and they would find out about how important energy was for the world. And then they'd say, well, this art thing, I mean, I don't understand what that thing looks like. It's like a bunch of squiggles. And then the artist would say, you know, here's what I'm trying to do. Come down to my studio. And they would go down to the studio. And then the cowboy would say, you know, that's kind of cool. And you realize that our future is entirely tied up in our ability to communicate with one another. This poem tells that. Transcends everything. So it's my honor, I guess, tonight. I mean, I've told you that I think arts are unbelievably strong in Wyoming, but you'll see it tonight. And I have to look at a script here because I'm really bad at following instructions. My wife will tell you that. Darren, are we meant to, we're meant to show some videos now, is that correct? Look at that. First Lady and Steve Schrefferman, would you please join us up on stage? And while they're coming up, I would like to acknowledge the sponsors of this great evening once more. So would you please stand, sponsors, as you are, so that we can congratulate you and thank you, please. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for your support of Wyoming. All right, Darren, you've got the instructions. I'll follow your lead. Why don't you introduce WYO Theater? Do you have those notes? I do. Do I have to? Do I have to do this? Really?
Unless you direct me otherwise.
No, I won't do that. So the first recipient, a story about my daughter B, you know, as a proud dad with obviously the musical talent that the Roses were imparting to her, I said, you know, we've got to go up to Sheridan and we're going to go to the WYO Theater and we're going to see Riders of the Stage, you know, and so they made wonderful music that evening, and my daughter never forgave me for saying, you need to go up and talk to them. So she had to go up on stage and talk to the wonderful people that were playing music on the stage, and she has never forgiven me to that day. So our first recipient is the WYO Theater, and it serves as one of the main arts and cultural pillars of Sheridan, Wyoming. The theater helps to educate students and community members while serving as an economic driver for downtown Sheridan. And I would like to invite you to look at the screen so that you can see a little more about this wonderful place.
There is hardly a family in Sheridan or Buffalo that haven't been touched in a positive way by the WYO Theater.
one of our former board members used to call the WYO Sheridan's living room.
As a child, I was incredibly shy. When I started participating in theater, something just clicked, and I was able to really find my voice and find a sense of confidence and a sense of self.
Well, it's really an icon in Sheridan.
The WYO Theater was built in 1923 as a vaudeville house called the Lotus. From there it became a movie theater, and then in the late 70s, early 80s, it was abandoned essentially. And in 1989, it reopened as the WYO Theater, what we see here.
Well, let's see, we've had Dwight Yoakam, we've had Garth Brooks, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, we've had Tammy Wynette.
My favorite part of working here is actually having the free matinees for our local students. I love that we can introduce kids to the arts that wouldn't always come here.
We bring in every school child in town, bust them in for free, and they have puppet shows, and they have Bill Nye the Science Guy.
The WYO in particular has an awesome partnership with the Wyoming Girls School, is that they find something in the performing arts that clicks with them in some way, that brings something out of them that they like to see or feel.
The great thing about the WYO is that it's the community's theater. It belongs to Sheridan, and as such, anybody in Sheridan can engage at the WYO. You're seeing your doctor on stage, or the gal who is the bank teller.
People will come to me and say, so I don't know, I'm nervous, I've never been on stage, but it's something I've always wanted to do, or I'm curious about this aspect of theater, and I always tell them there's no safer place than Sheridan.
The WYO Theater, I would say, is the gear that turns all the cogs that keeps this downtown vital.
When we bring in those companies that are here for multiple days, they're not just here and then gone. They're here and they're exploring the shops, and they're going to the local bakery, and they're getting coffee down the street.
The WYO has just become a central part of my life and my family's life.
I would say if you're a Wyoming town and you don't have a WYO Theater, get one.
The WYO Theater, recipient of 2019 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award.
Would my friends from the WYO Theater please come up on stage?
Good evening. Thank you so much. I'm Erin Butler, Executive Director. Thank you. It is such a great honor to accept this award on behalf of the WYO Theater. Thank you, Wyoming Arts Council, especially Mike, Lori, and Brittany, and all of the Wyoming arts entities who recognize the important role the cultural economy and the arts play in Wyoming's economic development. Thank you, Governor and First Lady Gordon, for this significant honor, and thank you, legislators, for understanding how critical the arts are in making Wyoming livable. It's hard to overstate what tremendous pride I feel in receiving this award for the WYO, and it's equally as humbling to be the one to do so. The WYO's history is great. Great in its span, great in its impact, and great in its telling. But I won't go to great lengths in the telling of it. I only have 3 minutes. It is, however, of the utmost importance to recognize those that have helped build the WYO to the grand performing arts and education center it is today. Those individuals who saw a need, who shared a spark, and who saved the WYO. The spark began with Lynn Simpson. The thrilling, hard-headed, remarkable woman at that table there. The spark of Lynn lit an entire community on fire, and soon followed her husband, Pete, naturally, Richard Davis, Roman Scatula, Kim Cannon, Sophie Pellissier, Tammy Davis, and so many others. Their love for the theater cannot be denied, and is the reason that the place exists today. Love is a common theme at the WYO. The love of board members and volunteers, community members and staff who have joined together to raise up a space whose sole purpose is to bring people together in celebration of and love for the arts. Some of those individuals are with us today. Staff members, board members, community members, and of particular note, Gene Sterlin, our current board chair, who continues to lead with his heart first. Thank you. Okay, so maybe that was a bit more history than you bargained for, but it's important to note that the WYO is made up of people. People who care, people who need to be inspired, and people who need people. I've been asked to address the significance or role of the arts in your life, but I feel it's more appropriate to address the significant role the WYO has played in the life of Sheridan. And I promise I'll make it short. The WYO is more than just a venue for music or a stage for plays. The WYO is a place where hundreds of school children a year gather to experience Earth's Dinosaur Zoo live, or The Call of the Wild, or Mr. Popper's Penguins for free. A place where patrons remember necking in the back of the theater when Star Wars came out. That was when it was a movie theater. The WYO is a place where people make lifelong friends, and they learn to be on stage, and they learn to dance, and they learn to sing, and they learn confidence and to express themselves. The WYO is a place where anything and everything can happen, where people feel safe and welcomed and heard, where art is celebrated and accessible. The WYO means so many things to so many people. To me, it means home and belonging and friends. And don't forget economic development. It means that too. The WYO is more than a vessel for the arts. The WYO is a big, beautiful sanctuary for the people of the arts. It's what we do. It's what we all do. Create space for art and people and love. Isn't that what Wyoming is about? To inspire? Thank you, Jim, Robert, Wendy, and the Music Educators Association for spreading the love. Thanks to you, to all the people of the WYO, those who know, love, support, and work. Will you please stand and be recognized, you guys over there? All the WYO friends, everyone. And lastly, thanks to you, to everyone here who knows the arts matter. They do. Let's keep working. Now I guess.
We need to get a picture.
Okay, we have to do a
need to
picture.
get them up there. So you all have to come up, and while they're coming up, I have to tell you, they're two. Yes, please, up on stage, please. Cyrano de Bergerac, could you please join us on stage? Merci, monsieur. So for those of you who don't know, there was a wonderful production that it featured Pete Simpson as Cyrano. So. Okay. I'm in the middle. You get my head. Where's Aaron should be? Can I bring a few of you guys to the other end? Yeah. We'll come over. All right, Aaron. Okay. Aaron, you get on the other side. Yeah, you should have your head. Squish. All right, everybody, just keep looking at the camera. I'm just going to fan. I know my husband's cool. All right. You want us to get that microphone down?
All right, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Just keep smiling right here.
It was at the WYO that I first saw the stunning woman to my left dressed in green. At a Colcannon concert featuring a Wyoming artist, professor at University of Wyoming. The next recipient is also from Sheridan, and it is James Jackson. James Jackson is a master leatherworker, creating the most amazing pieces of art in the Sheridan leather tooling style. James is a recipient of the 2019 National Heritage Fellowship, being only the 4th resident of Wyoming to receive the honor. And please direct your attention to the screen for a video about James.
I've done work for 2 presidents, Tommy Lee Jones, Wilford Brimley. He wanted me to make a belt for his stunt double, and he said, "Oh, how soon can I have this?" And I said, "Well, you have to wait because I've got a lot of other orders." And he got a kick out of that because I like to treat everybody the same way.
Well, Jim Jackson is kind of the epitome of what I consider a Wyoming Western artist.
I was stopped in New York City once, and a fellow was looking at my belt, and I turned around and he says, "I know where you're from. You're from Sheridan." I'm very proud of that. There was a point in time when you could tell where a cowboy was from by the tooling on his saddle. The culture you grow up in has a lot to do with the type of work you do.
There's nothing clunky about it. It's just the highest quality you're going to find.
My father was a saddle maker, and I was raised in a leather shop. I remember falling asleep to the chugging of the old stitching machine. So the smells and the sounds of a leather shop, they're just embedded in my soul. When I went off to art school down at the University of Wyoming, I was stamping leather for 4 different companies. I thought at one time that I would probably just make a living as a painter, and I did that down in Denver for a while, but I could never get rid of the love for working with leathers.
I've tried to get in the middle of that a couple times and say, well, you know, you need to get rid of that leather work and focus on the fine art, and he's just never been able to do that.
The ideas for my work, part of it comes out of just getting visual energy, and then I plug in some of the elements from my direct experience. The floral work, the carving, and so forth that you find on the saddle, and all of that, it's a traditional part of our culture.
You know, he's a highly regarded teacher as well as a highly regarded craftsman, and Jim is committed to working with people and basically trying to bring along that next group of artists that are going to pick up the tradition and carry it on to the, you know, to the next level.
I've been to Japan 5 times now. You can go to Kyoto or Nara or Tokyo, Hiroshima. You will see women carrying leather purses with Sheridan style carving on them. Sheridan, this little town in northern Wyoming, has had a major influence all the way to the other side of the world, and it's a great place to be. It's a great place to live. Very fortunate in so many ways, and if that can be part of my work, I think that's what I'm after.
Jim Jackson, recipient of the 2019 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award.
Pull a little piece of paper out. I wrote this up last night, so hang on. Okay. I'm not used to giving speeches. I'm used to stamping leather, so this is a little different for me. Thank you, Governor Gordon, and First Lady for hosting this. It's an inspiring event, and I've enjoyed it very much. I want to thank the Wyoming Council on the Arts as well for your unwavering support of the fine arts in our state. Your emphasis on the importance of the arts in our culture is crucial. And, you know, over the last year, I've been very fortunate, and the Wyoming Council on the Arts has given me a lot of support for a lot of the things I've been doing. And there are artists all across the state that are extremely fortunate to have this organization. And I know I've talked to a lot of them, and they thank you too. So thanks again. You know, before I get going with my little speech here, I ran into two cowboys out in the lobby here before the dinner, and I was talking with them, and they asked me what I was going to talk about when I got up here. And I said, well, the Wyoming Arts Council asked me to talk about how significant art is in my life and what role it plays, and so forth. And Shorty said, you've never been able to tell a 3-minute story in your life. So anyway, hang on, and I'll get through this. And you know what those guys wanted? They wanted me to get up here and tell you stories of the old days at King's Saddlery. And I had to laugh at that, and I said, well, that would be really colorful, but it's probably a little bit off subject, so I'm not gonna, and I'll tell you what though, it has reminded me to invite all of you here tonight to come up to the Riverton Museum. That's where my little shop is. That is an incredible place. You know, I was really fortunate when I retired from King's. I was going to paint pretty much full time in my studio, but they offered this space in this beautiful place, and I wanted to give something back to the community. So that little shop is an educational tool. And so we get lots of people through there, and you can come up, you can visit with me, the coffee pot's always on. You can smell the leather, you can look at my tools, look at my machinery, and I know quite a bit about the history of the leather shops. It's a Wyoming tradition. Leather carving is a Wyoming tradition, and we've had some of the finest carvers in the world in this part of the country. And so I'm very proud to talk about that, and I hope all of you can come up and visit me. It's part of the tour when you go through the museum and so forth. By the way, it's a spectacular museum, so if you've never been there, please come up. So make sure you come down to my shop though, because I'd love to visit with all of you. As while I'm talking about the Riverton, I want to thank their director, Ken Schuster. His friendship and devotion to the fine arts has been just an amazing thing. So, and he's been a good friend of mine for 40 years now. So it's been a great friendship. And I'd like to thank all the dedicated members of the board of directors there who have decided that the traditional arts are really important, and this leather work is part of it. And so that's why I'm there, and I'd like to thank them. In recognition, the recognition that you folks are so generously giving me tonight means a great deal to me. I mean, that's coming from my heart. I've spent most of my life in Wyoming, worked on a ranch. When I was a young guy, I acquired a couple of degrees from the University of Wyoming. Sold my paintings and leatherwork out of several exceptional galleries and museums, and I still do. I've traveled around all the U.S., most of it the world, to Europe, Australia, Japan, usually giving leather carving classes and seminars. I've also worked in a famous and quite sensational saddle shop for close to 30 years. I've created and built leather work for ranchers, city folk, movie stars, and presidents. Treated them all with the same respect. Throughout my life, I've had an intense need, I guess you could call it a creative spirit, a need to engage my direct experience in some meaningful way. And that's been very important to me. The floral patterns I carve on the riding equipment, belts, purses, wallets, briefcases, and hundreds of other items is reflective of the regional style of tooling passed down to me from my father, who was a fine saddle maker, as well as the men and women I've worked with in several saddle shops in northern Wyoming. And I'm talking about Don King, Chester Hape, Billy Gardner. They were like fathers to me. And so it's an amazing bunch of people that I've worked with over the years. Leather carving is my connection to the traditional arts. The other half of my life has been connected to the fine arts. I've applied the lessons of each discipline to the other, and now the line between the two is disappearing. I feel that most artists, whether they're painters, actors, musicians, dancers, we all are looking for the perfect metaphor for our direct experience so that we might explore and communicate those moments in life that touch our soul and enlighten us. And if somehow you find a means to express that metaphor, you enrich your life and perhaps touch other souls. When done, a work of art will heighten and focus our senses, giving us new insight. If we pay close attention, a work of art can give us fulfillment and inspiration. It's food for thought. How many times have you gone to a concert, a play, an exhibition, or even walked into a saddle shop and then gone home thinking, wow, that was profound. That took me to a place I've never been. And you woke up the next morning and still thinking about that experience, that new insight. That's what art does. It jumpstarts our imagination. I carve and tool leather, and I'm a painter. I've always had both a leather shop and a studio throughout my life. Both occupations require lots of hard work, many long hours. Both are occupations where your creativity is constantly challenged. This is what I live for, and this is what I love to do. Thank you all for supporting the arts in Wyoming. I appreciate it.
We're going to get a picture.
I think Jim kind of said it all. It's a great opportunity and honor to welcome Jim to the stage. Our next recipient is an amazing artist, Robert Martinez. Robert is an inspiring visual artist, creating work that is aesthetically beautiful. Robert also helps educate students across the state through workshops and residencies in classroom and nonprofit arts organizations. So let's direct our attention to the screens for some Robert Martinez.
Living here in the middle of Wyoming, and my heritage is Northern Arapaho and Chicano. I draw a lot of my ideas from that. Well, in my travels around, I have found that people have a preconceived notion of Native people, Native tribes, and Native artwork. We may have our own ceremonies and culture, and we hold those and keep those dear, but I wanted to get across that, well, we're modern people too. This particular piece is called Native America the Beautiful. In most historical photos, you either find those black and white or sepia-toned images of natives, which connotates to a dead culture. So I paint in vibrant colors that are really intense to the viewer to let you know that we're still here, we're getting stronger, and don't forget us.
He's willing to go out there and meet people and try to find a way to make us all realize we're all the same but different, and he does that in a very gracious and kind way.
My particular artwork is usually used to adjust the expectations of what Native or ethnic art could be. I really like people, so I try to come at it from a one-on-one conversation. If you look at some of my drawings, you'll find technology or pop elements mixed with Native or Western imagery.
I think sometimes people think art is a luxury item, and Robert does work that could be in that realm, but he also is willing to take it, and for lack of a better term, to the common man.
I believe art should be accessible to everyone. And not everybody can afford a $10,000, $5,000 painting. So I've taken some of my designs and transferred them to an affordable art, a t-shirt, cell phone case, stickers, magnets, just so that it's available to the public. Just because art is great doesn't mean it shouldn't be accessible to everybody.
He does a lot of portraiture, and you see that spirit, you see that beautiful light that comes out of a person. He doesn't paint always the beautiful person, but they are beautiful when he's done.
I'm a co-founder of the Northern Arapaho Artists Society. In 2012, we came together and we decided that there were not enough venues locally, especially for Native artists. So that was our focus. We got with the director of the Lander Art Center at that time and asked them if we could do a show and if we could make it an annual show. They've actually helped us to do that, and they've continued that tradition. I want to push for more Native artist exposure for Wyoming and in the surrounding area. If I can't at least make you question or say, huh, that's a different idea with an image, then I'm not doing my job as an artist.
Robert Martinez, recipient of the 2019 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award.
Last week at a National Endowment of the Arts convening in Washington, D.C., Wyoming Arts Council Director Mike Lang asked me if I had a speech ready. He looked a little frantic when I said, I'll wing it. No worries, Mike, I wrote one. First, I'd like to thank Governor Mark Gordon for this acknowledgement, the Wyoming Arts Council, for all your hard work over the years. The viewers and collectors of my work, without you, I wouldn't be here. My friends Johnny and Heidi Escabel, for your support. My sisters Andrea and Candace. My mother, who left us recently. My father, who's here with us. for all your support over the years, and to my wife, who put up with me through thick and thin and never stopped believing in me. Thank you. I love you. It's an honor to receive this award. As far as I know, there are only a handful of Native or Chicano artists in Wyoming that have been able to receive this acknowledgement. Too often, people of color are relegated to tiny subgenres of what's considered art. Almost never what's considered mainstream art. Be that as it may, labels and categories give us a foundation for discussion and ultimately lead to better communication. As an artist, the entire job is creative communication. In these current polarizing times, communication is more important than ever. Therefore, the arts are more important than ever. My work highlights a certain perspective or issue from a different point of view, but at the same time reinforces the things that make us the same. It's not about how we're different, it's about how we're similar. Thank you. I use imagery and techniques from the past, but also fully acknowledge the present, and it also has open-ended questions of the future. In my mentorship with younger artists around the state, around the country, the future, the immediate future, the foreseeable future, and the distant future are always important discussion topics. What will the art scene be tomorrow? What will it be a year from now? What will it be 5 years from now? Many of the people in this room right now have a huge say of what that will be for Wyoming. I urge you to include the arts and artists in your conversations, in your plans, in your goals about the future of Wyoming and the future in general. When those conversations or debates become difficult, please remember that from early cave paintings to historical petroglyphs, classical sculpture, modern dance, acting, writing, the culinary arts, computer design, artists have always been experts at communication. Thank you.
We're going to get a picture, okay? I think we're going to come right over here. Oh, perfect. Yeah, no.
Robert, I think the first time I saw a painting of yours was in the Buffalo Bill Museum, and it was in a selection of new art for Native Americans, and it was striking then, and it's just amazing how much you have grown, and it's just, you got to go see his work. You just got to. So. Our next recipient is the Wyoming Music Educators Association. The Wyoming Music Educators Association has a long track record of leading Wyoming's high artistic excellence in the K-12 music education. Sorry, got to turn the page. The organization has built a statewide structure that promotes professional development for music educators and help build strong music programs inside of local schools. Please direct your attention to the screen for a video about this amazing organization.
I will come before his presence with thanksgiving.
Yeah, that was sweet. Do it one more time. Ready?
I I will praise thee.
I just think that everybody needs a purpose and needs a passion. I think the people that don't have that, feel lost, and I think they spend the majority of their lives trying to find what that thing is. And music can be that for so many kids.
The WMEA is an education association that was designed to promote and support music education in the state.
Music education in Wyoming is particularly interesting because everyone operates in such great isolation. Think about places like Hewlett or Lusk or Yoder, where people are teaching music. They might be the only music teacher in that town. The Music Education Association allows us to connect people at conferences, but even through things that we do on our website with forums and listservs where people can communicate ideas and questions. If the organization didn't exist, I'm not sure how those people would get the support that they need to be successful.
1, 2, 3, 4, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. You do everything you can to help them succeed.
The State Music Conference for WMEA is really invaluable to music teachers to get professional development that pertains to the music education.
You have the music teachers studying, conferencing, working together on the professional development. And then you have all these high school students working with guest conductors from, colleges and universities from around the country.
When they get there, they practice for basically 1 day, 1.5 days, and then they put on this concert, which is awesome.
Well, the WMEA was part of a very successful lobbying effort to get the fine and performing arts included in the Hathaway Scholarship.
Early on, it was a challenge when kids were having to navigate both the success curriculum and trying to fit music into their schedule. The changes made to include music into the Hathaway Scholarship allow them to follow the area that they are passionate about and successful about.
It is team building, it's working together. You're working in tandem with a lot of others, and you're working towards excellence and perfection. The musical education, I think, goes beyond just the music itself.
There are lots of ways that have been proven that music is a benefit for socialization, for working together in a group. Also, improve cognition, improve pattern recognition.
I can't even count the number of students that I've had, kids that otherwise would not have come to school, just wouldn't, but they were not going to miss a day of school because they wanted to play music, perform music.
Music certainly is one of those carrots that really, I think, keeps kids coming to school. They have higher GPAs, they have less attendance issues, less discipline issues.
And I find, especially in this era more than ever, that teaching young kids and young adults to be able to express their emotion in a healthy way rather than maybe in an unhealthy way is maybe something our society needs now more than ever.
Makes sense?
Wyoming Music Educators Association, recipient of the 2019 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award.
Thank you so much. My name is Lila Kana. I'm the president of the Wyoming Music Educators Association. It is a tremendous honor to accept this award on behalf of my colleagues. Thank you so much, Governor Gordon, First Lady, for hosting us. I'm not going to wax philosophical about the importance of arts and music education to this crowd, because everybody here believes that, and that would be preaching to the choir, so to speak. So I do have some simple but very sincere thank yous I need to share. Thank you so much to the Wyoming Arts Council for your recognition and all you do to promote the arts in Wyoming. Thank you to Debbie Rose for her nomination of us to have this award. Thank you to Camille Elan-Tabli for setting all of the nomination process in motion. Thank you to the parents, the students, the administrators, everybody that wrote letters of support for us. It was really takes a village, kind of a community effort. Thank you to the Wyoming High School Activities Association, our partnership with them is very valuable, and they support us in everything that we do. We need to thank our executive director, Sandy Steele, who was unable to be with us this evening. She has steered our ship in the right direction for many, many years, and we would not be where we are without her. Thank you to the music educators across the state of Wyoming, past and present. From the very first WMEA Music Educator of the Year, Ron Kuhn, who is probably responsible for generations of music educators in Wyoming, to Cheyenne's own Monica Huntington, who received our award this year. Generations in between. Their work every day to bring music education to every single kid just cannot be measured. And lastly, I would like to thank the WMEA board for the tireless work they do to promote activities and organizations and events that celebrate music with our kids. And how lucky are we that we get to live in a state that celebrates music education and the arts every single day. Thank you so much. Would the music educators in the room join us on the stage, please?
Well, we gotta have Brent somewhere too. Oh, there he is.
Same idea. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Was that Chris? It is amazing what these educators do. So for those of you who my first wife passed away sadly, actually accompanied the Simpsons in a musical of Carousel. But she was reading all of these data that were suggesting that more music means more synapses, means smarter kids, means kids that will succeed more in life. So let's have lots of education. Listen to those violins when they squeak. So our next recipient is well known to many of you. She is an amazing artist, Wendy Bredehoft. Wendy has served as a leader for the arts in Wyoming for many decades. She has served in roles including educator, administrator, and advocate, and all the while she has maintained a studio to create her work as a visual artist. Please turn your attention to the screens.
my husband and I and our kids moved to Jeffrey City back in 1984, we started the Jeffrey City Arts Council, which seemed kind of like a strange thing to do when we knew that the town was dying and that people were going to continue to leave town. But what we felt and what we discovered was that having arts activities helped with that transition period. In times of great stress, the arts were able to provide opportunities of joy and community fellowship and just fun.
I hired Wendy as our curator of education at the Art Museum. We were at a particular time when we had an arts education program that was not challenging students perhaps in ways that it could.
I was brought in specifically to take a look at their K through 12 arts education. We used the artwork that was on exhibition as the basis for learning. So when teachers and students came to the art museum, we let the students look at the artwork and then engage them in conversations about what they are seeing and how it related to the world around them.
We saw participation go up dramatically. So by the time she left, we were seeing over 10,000 students from across the state coming into the museum for that program.
I've seen so many wonderful positive things that can happen when people engage in the arts, whether it's making art themselves or whether it's viewing art and figuring out what artists are saying.
One of our goals initially of bringing attention to Laramie as a creative community was the Touchstone Laramie project.
When we first talked about it, the gal who was the manager of the Ramada Inn came up to us and said, I'd be willing to let you try this out. And we take over the entire third floor. The advantage to working with a hotel is that each artist is able to have their own individual space, and they really can put their own personal touch into their gallery space.
The artist is there, you can ask them questions, they can talk about their work. It's become one of the foundational accomplishments in Laramie that has led Laramie to do the mural project, have a public art plan for our city.
The arts really add value to, say, a downtown area. I mean, it changes the nature of your community.
I think her passion is really trying to identify challenges within organizations and to make those situations better.
As the new chair for Wyoming Arts Alliance, I'm excited to announce that we have begun a pilot project that will engage with 3 communities to take a look at how they can build additional partnerships to really fire up their downtown area and turn it into sort of a cultural destination. I think that the arts are critical to our better understanding of ourselves, each other, the world around us. I guess that's why I do it.
Wendy Bredehoft, recipient of the 2019 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award.
Well, Mike told me I was the finishing act. And, you know, the 3-minute sort of thing, I'm glad to know that there were other really long 3 minutes that happened. But I know that time is short, and there is no way to acknowledge everyone who has had a hand and contributed to my standing here tonight. Of course, I need to recognize a few and say a few closing comments. First of all, thank you, Governor, First Lady. This is indeed such an honor. By the way, it is okay to call you Governor, right? I only ask because when you surprised me with your phone call in December, at no time did you say, "This is the Governor." Rather, I was caught wondering, who is this Mark guy calling me about Governor's Arts Awards? So just checking, okay? Wyoming Arts Council Board, we should be honoring you and all of your predecessors for the untold volunteer hours you contribute to the cultural health and well-being of Wyoming. Darren, Sarah, and Mike, you have amazing people working in the Department of Cultural Resources and State Parks. You know how I put that in the proper order, right? Thank you for leading and supporting them in the work they do on the cultural side through the Arts Council, the Wyoming Cultural Trust Fund, Archives, the State Museum, the State Archaeologist's Office and Historic Preservation, and historic sites on the park side. I stand here in awe of my fellow awardees. It is about time the Music Educators Association is held accountable for the gazillions of recitals and school performances by young instrumental and vocal musicians Wyoming has produced over the years. Raise your hand if you've ever been on either side of the performing or audience side of one of those events. Raise your hand. Yeah, I thought so. WYO Theater, the impact you have had on Sheridan, culturally, economically, aesthetically, is tremendous. Congratulations, Aaron, Butler, staff, and board. Here's to the start of your 31st year in that wonderful facility. Jim Jackson, it goes without saying that your traditional artistry deserves recognition. Congratulations on your National Endowment Heritage Fellowship Award, as well as this Governor's Arts Honor. I'd like to point out that I have a good friend sitting in the audience, Brandon Spector and horse trader Dick Fenster. I asked you earlier, Jim, if you'd brought a saddle. I know that if you'd had a saddle here, Dick would have been drooling over that saddle. Robert Martinez, fellow visual artist, I find your work challenging, enlightening, and true. It has integrity. It is beautifully crafted. Need I say more? These award winners represent only a sampling of the depth and breadth of diverse talent that makes Wyoming strong. I am privileged to share the stage with all of them. Now, to Susan Moldenhauer and her co-conspirators who nominated me. Bruce Richardson, Margaret Wilson, Sue Summers, Diane Panazzo, Anthony Radich. There is no more erudite and articulate group. I stand here as evidence of that. How many of you noticed the cold blowing in from the north earlier this week? That was just a Canadian clipper sweeping through, bringing my dad, brothers, nephew and his family in from Vancouver area and Toronto. You all know that those are two areas in Canada, right? Yeah. And that they are on the opposite sides of the country, eh? If for no other reason, I am thankful for this event, bringing together my side of the family for our first ever family reunion. Woo! Dad, I am so happy you are here, 88 years strong and still traveling. As Presbyterian ministers, you and Mom instilled in us an understanding of the concept of a calling. It took me a while to figure it out, but I found my calling through the arts, and you guys were always among my biggest supporters. Thank you for coming so far to share in this evening with us. Roger, my husband of 47 years, Ellen, Jen, Ray, my 3 adult children. You have provided inspiration and support throughout our explorations together. You kept me humble, focused, and were my reason for being. You kids had a unique upbringing in a household where your game warden dad was on call 24/7, and your mom was often traveling the highways and byways in support of the arts. And here you are, all the way from East Brunswick, New Jersey, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Beaufort, Wyoming, to help celebrate. I love you all. It is thrilling to me that so many family and friends have journeyed to Cheyenne to share in this moment, and that this room is filled to overflowing with such a deep appreciation generated by you all for what the arts can and should be doing for Wyoming. Years ago, Victor Flack, my design instructor at the University of Wyoming, proclaimed my career as an artist doomed when he learned I was moving to Jeffrey City. It's funny how inspiration is created. Those were fighting words to spur me on. For those unfamiliar with Jeffrey City, it was a uranium mining town on the downward slide in the middle of the state on hard times in the mid-1980s. This once booming community was in the throes of a bust. The mines had closed, workers and their families were moving on, and local businesses, including the only remaining grocery store, were shutting down. The school endured, but student numbers dropped dramatically, and the remaining faculty were just enough to cover required classes. Feeling like pioneers in our uncertainty and determination, we rolled into town. Roger assumed his duties as the new game warden while I settled our 3 kids into life in their new home and began my career as an artist, determined to prove Victor wrong. Looking back, it is clear now that the 5 years we spent in JC shaped my future, my sense of self as an artist, and my understanding of community. It was here that I learned an important Wyoming lesson. If you can't find what you need, create it. The Jeffrey City Arts Council was born in a time of great need, providing positive opportunities for creative action and growth, and bolstering the spirits of those who remained. Tough times seemed less stressful, and community pride was palpable. These were lessons I took with me over the next 30 years. During the years I worked for the Wyoming Arts Council, the Department of State Parks and Cultural Resources, and the UW Art Museum, I observed how much the arts play a critical role in defining and bringing together communities. Today, across the state, you find artists and the arts in every form. Clearly, Wyoming is a great place to make art and enjoy it, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It takes perseverance and determination to be an artist and art supporter in Wyoming, far from the art centers of our country. It means developing our own support systems in our local and statewide communities, and creating the opportunities needed to ensure our communities are not only art-friendly places, but also actively engaging in creative placemaking and development. We have the power to determine our future, especially in times of greatest adversity. I look to the grassroots organizations in Wyoming's local communities, bolstered by the support of statewide and regional entities like the Arts Council, the Humanities Council, the Wyoming Arts Alliance, and the Western States Arts Federation, to help us envision the future and strategically, creatively show us how it can be achieved. Thank you, everyone, for helping make that happen.
We have to have the family on stage or you're all going to be here all night. Just saying. So can the family join us up here? Thanks.
might be the biggest group yet.
Way to represent.
Wow, you do have a family reunion.
I don't know. Can you get their picture? Squeeze in like you like each other. All right, everybody, just keep looking at the camera. You got it? One, two, three. Governor Gordon, again, thank you so much for your support for the arts in Wyoming. And thank you to everyone who came tonight to support the arts. So I took notes. I have key takeaways. So, do you have a WYO Theater in your in your city? And if not, call Lynn. She'll help you out. You'll be set. Do you own one of Robert's pieces? Right? There is contemporary native arts being created, and you should enjoy that and take part in that. I think Robert said, in these polarizing times, communication is key, and some of the best communicators are artists. Music education is essential to build a strong Wyoming. Yeah, absolutely. In these tough budget times, where the state is looking at a huge shortfall in public education, what can you do to make sure that there is music education in every school across the state? And Wendy, thank you for reminding us why and how to support the arts in Wyoming. And remember, you can create art anywhere, including Jeffrey City. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't, because you can. And Wendy, I believe that you just proved Victor wrong, for sure. So thank you all for coming tonight, and keep supporting the arts in your local communities, and have a wonderful evening.